Up next, we're honored to welcome someone who has spent decades serving both in uniform and as a tireless advocate for our nation's veterans. Mitch Fuller is a decorated U.S. Army veteran with over 17 years of military service, spanning both enlisted and commissioned roles, including a decade of active duty. Today, he brings that experience to his work as a seasoned public sector strategy consultant and dedicated veterans advocate. Mitch currently serves as the chairman of VFW National Legislative Committee, where he helps shape the future of veteran policy at the highest levels. Mitch is joined by Texas State Chief of Staff, Greg Brannon, who is also an Air Force combat veteran, and Associate Public Director of Affairs, Brittany Diamond, who is a Navy veteran. Please join me in welcoming Mitch, Greg, and Brittany to the stage.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. It's great to be back on stage this morning and joined by Mitch and Greg. Mitch, you and I know each other through legislative activities, but this conversation today is going to be quite a bit different.
Yes.
You're out of Texas, both of you out of Texas, and you've also been really involved in some of our VFW's recent efforts to engage more with the military and veteran community, other organizations across the community. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. There's really, I want to talk about three organizations that are working closely together. And I want to start with the organization called Irreverent Warriors. Irreverent Warriors is focused on veteran mental health, and the motto is, we bring veterans together through humor and camaraderie to improve mental health and prevent veteran suicide. So Irreverent Warriors conducts Silkies hikes, the very short Silkies hikes all over the country, and was founded 10 years ago. And Irreverent Warriors is now a program of the Grunt Style Foundation. So the Grunt Style Foundation and Irreverent Warriors merged. So I'm also, it's a pleasure and honor to serve on the Grunt Style Foundation Board of Directors. Fast forward to a year ago, almost to the day, there was a meeting in Kansas City, and the Washington, D.C. office zoomed into that meeting. And this was a conversation about the collaboration between the VFW and the Grunt Style Foundation. So that brings two very powerful brands together for advocacy in Washington, D.C. and our state capitals, a focus on veteran suicide prevention. And, there's been some joint statements issued the past year. One, calling out the VA. The VA spends $571 million on veteran suicide, the suicide prevention program, and it's not been very effective. So where is that money going? Right. And so that meeting, our Commander-in-Chief Al Liphart, Tim Jensen, the president of the board of the Grunt Style Foundation, a group of us went to Kansas City and had a very good conversation. I want to thank Dan West and Brian Walker and Ryan Gallucci and all of the staff, because this has been a very powerful alliance, and we're going to talk about the payoff, one of the payoffs that's we're coming up here shortly. So
yeah, and these are really important alliances. Alliances are really important, whether
Absolutely.
It's advocacy or community engagement or what have you. When we're pooling resources to do the best we can when our common interests overlap, which they very much do with Grunt Style and Irreverent Warriors.
Yes. Yeah, the brands, it's just a natural fit. And Tim Jensen is the board president, a Marine Iraq, combat veteran who's overcome a lot. So we can focus on veterans' mental health and PTSD and that advocacy arena and fight for it. Because the Grunt Style Foundation, Brittany, was also a very powerful and instrumental in getting the PACT Act across the finish line 3 years ago. And you were involved with that. The legislative committee, we were all involved with that. So that was a team effort. And the VFW was the red zone offense for sure. They got that over the finish line. But, Leroy and Rosie Torres, Burn Pitch 360, and the Grunt Style Foundation. So that it was inevitable that we're going to work together like we are right now.
Absolutely. And this is a really important area. So, veterans after service, it's really important to find purpose.
Yes.
To continue to serve in some way. And for a lot of veterans, it's not an easy task to accomplish. I personally spent about 7 years. I felt lost. Yeah. And so, and then I found VFW, and it's like, oh, there's this other way that I can give back. And it sounds like we have some other, with our partnership with Grunt Style and with our Irreverent Warriors, Grunt Style Foundation, Irreverent Warriors, it sounds like VFW is is that we're expanding the ways in which veterans can continue to contribute after service and find purpose.
Absolutely, and the outreach, the collective and collaborative outreach of the organizations is good because it's about recruiting veterans into our organization. It's giving veterans, as you say, a purpose, Brittany, and I think that's that's a good transition to where the payoff has been very recently. So over the July 4th weekends, some very devastating floods impacted Central Texas, impacted several communities, including communities in Texas where we have VFW posts. To your point, Brittany, when something like that happens, the members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and all veterans are going to go, okay, where do I need to go? What is my purpose? So our military training that we learned in whatever branch that we served in, kicked in a sense of duty. So we had Kerrville, Texas, was really ground zero, and VFW Post 1480 was the first post, obviously, to step up. So when all of that happened, and the VFW was trying to figure out how to act, I got a call on Saturday from Greg Brannon, our state chief of staff. He says, we got a situation at a post, got a bunch of supplies, we need some logistics help. I said, okay, I'm going to link you up with Tim Jensen with the Grunt Style Foundation. They immediately started collaborating and working together. And our state commander made a decision, Dave Walden. We're going to centralize all of the VFW response through the state headquarters with the chief of staff, Greg Brannon, on the lead. So I think it's a good opportunity, Greg. So once that link up with Tim Jensen happened, you were the lead for the VFW. He's the lead for Grunt Style Foundation, has all those trucks, and kind of talk about how that all came to pass.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Brittany. So yeah, this whole thing started with the plan. No plan led into a plan. So we talked to Mitch. He hooked us up with and connected us with Tim Jensen from Grunt Style, and it went from there. We had a post in Central Texas that did start a community drive, and the post was just overflowing with supplies. And the question we kept on asking is, what's your plan? What's your plan? Well, we don't have a plan. We got it. We'll take care of it. So what we ended up doing is within a couple of hours of connecting with Grunt Style Foundation, the first 3,000 pounds of supplies went out to Kerrville. We're talking less than 12 hours. After that, we started hearing about other posts that were impacted, so we ended up with 5 posts that we stood up to receive supplies. Our Kerrville post, Burnett, San Angelo, Marble Falls, and Lampasas, all in the Central Texas area. Now, initially, Lampasas, San Angelo, Burnett were not affected by the Guadalupe River floods, but several days later, that whole area received anywhere between 7 and 14 inches of rain in several hours. So as we started receiving information that they needed the help and they needed the assistance, we started working with Grunt Style Foundation, Irreverent Warriors, and the VFW, and we just started pushing supplies in. So we did a hub and spoke model. So we identified the areas that needed the equipment. We backed up, found logistical hubs, and then we came in with volunteers from Irreverent Warrior, VFW, and Grunt Style Foundation, showing up with trailers, showing up with trucks. And then we started in 3 phases. So we initially did just the initial response, water, liquid IV, things of that nature, just to get on the ground, let people know that we're here, and start handing out initial supplies. And then it transitioned to search and rescue. What do the search and rescue folks need? Protein bars, water, liquid IVs, some tools, things that you would need for search and rescue. And then we transitioned from search and rescue, search and recovery into recovery. So now we're winding down, but we still have a few locations that are open, and it's community needs, non-perishable foods, canned goods, cleanup supplies, tools. And in addition to what we put on the ground, so as of this morning, we're roughly about 165 to 170 tons of equipment. Tons since the 5th of July. So in addition to what we did with supplies, and very little of these supplies were bought. A lot of them were donated. Yep. So, and it was interesting to watch this evolve. And to Mitch's point, when everything first started happening, everybody's like, okay, we're gonna send stuff in, and it's like, hold on a second, let's not overwhelm folks. And you saw it on the media too, that a lot of these places, people were just driving up, dropping stuff, and leaving.
Right.
I was up in Kerrville twice, and literally saw trucks pull up, dump stuff, or drop stuff off, and then leave. And so a lot of these places were overwhelmed. So what we did is we asked the Post to just pause, let us figure out what we need. Then once we figure out what we need, then we can collect at locations around the state, get them to these hubs, and find out where it's needed the most.
And the other thing that's worth mentioning too, this was the department, our state commander made a decision, we're going to centralize the response to the department. And this happened, overlapped with our statewide member training, so our annual training for our membership. So basically, Greg set up a talk at the hotel in Dallas. And so we were doing that reaction coordinated response in the middle of member training as well.
The parallel. Okay, so for some background on my end, so back up to last September when Hurricane Helene came through, and ravaged areas of the southeast. I went down to North Carolina, and what you two are describing, the parallels are striking between what happened there in the VFW response in Western North Carolina and the response in Texas. It's uncanny, actually, how identical it is from how supplies just started pouring in. Local VFW members are like, okay, well, we have a mission at hand. They essentially built a war room and brought together numerous resources, logistics, supplies, you name it. And there was also a conference going on at the same time.
Absolutely, and I think go back to look at July 24th. There were two, the VFW and the Grunt Style Foundation issued individual press releases with quotes from everybody involved. And I want Greg to take the handle on this, but like Greg said, it was an operation executed without a plan. But moving forward, with the lessons learned and working on the plan. So, Greg, talk about what you and Tim were talking about doing, what the VFW and the Grunt Style Foundation, that collaboration and moving forward, what a coordinated response looks like.
Yeah, so thanks, Mitch. And so what we're doing now is, now that we're in the wind down phase of this, we're putting a plan together. It's going to be a response plan for the state of Texas. And to that point is we're not just going to be a bunch of people showing up and helping. I mean, we can do that, but we're going to add to the skill set.
Absolutely.
We're going to right now the plan is to get 100 people at least in the state of Texas that are CERT trained, so community emergency response teams. So if we get Team Texas to have 100 people that are CERT trained, when a disaster happens, we can send the ADVON team in or an advanced team in, assess the situation, find out what we need, and then send the rest of the 100 folks in to assist where needed best. And they can also help with the hub and spoke model. And in addition to the supplies, we haven't talked about this part yet. So in addition to the roughly 165 tons that we put in, we fed 16,500 people since the 5th of July.
And 3 meals a day.
Three meals a day
in a lot of cases.
At 3 to 4 locations. And we had phenomenal sponsors, and can we say who one of them was?
Sure.
So one of them was Bar S Foods out of Lawton, Oklahoma. Yeah. They donated 26 tons of meat. 13 tons of meat, 26,000 pounds of meat.
Wow.
We had 17,000 pounds of hot dogs.
That is incredibly generous.
And a lot of these places, when we started the feeding operation, a lot of them hadn't had a fresh, hot meal and going on 7 to 10, sometimes even 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then there were people that couldn't come to the post to get the food, so they had volunteers. And, we had anywhere between 75 and 125 volunteers at each one of these posts to help out. And we would box the meals up and send them out. And so for some of them, that was the only meal that they had, was what the VFW and the partnership with the Grunt Style Foundation brought to those people.
And what's been great is when you set up an operation, all our military training kicks in, and so you start generating daily situation reports.
Yes.
So the Washington, D.C. office, Ryan Gallucci and Christina Keenan, the White House Public Liaison Office, contacted Ryan and Christina, and they contacted us and said, hey, can you know, the White House is very interested in knowing what's going on. So Greg Brandon, our lead, generates daily situation reports and has generated 2 executive summaries, you know, one kind of a week to 10 days in, and then another one kind of summarizing 16,000 meals, over 160 tons of supplies. The White House has all of those. So I send a daily situation report that Greg generates. So the White House knows what the VFW and the Grunt Style Foundation, what Texas veterans, and what veterans from all over the country, because we've had support from all over the country as well. When something like this happens, other states, you know, provide services. So there's been VFW posts all over the country. So thank you to other departments that have made financial contributions, sent volunteers, whatever the case may be. So this demonstrates to the White House, it's the power of the advocacy arm of the VFW, that relationship at the White House too. You know, so that there's the payoff. So there's been some payoffs out of this disaster. So we'll get better at this at coordinated disaster response.
And a lot of the posts have said that how they respond to this incident is going to change the way that that the community is going to view the VFW. It's going to give the VFW a different purpose and a different focus.
Right.
You know, we as a whole, and people that have been in the VFW for a while, you hear that the comparison, VFW equals BAR, and that's not always the case. So this is going to give us a new focus for those veterans that want to come in and want to involve the family, want to do volunteer work, and find a purpose, and this is going to be that purpose now.
And this is going to be that purpose. And that couldn't be more true, because circling back, a purpose really matters. A lot of people join the military for that purpose, the camaraderie, the mission. And in present day, I should say post 9/11 or recent generation veterans, when they're coming out, their definition of camaraderie, it may be it's often a little bit different than what that looked like with, you know, previous generations, you know, Desert Storm, Desert Shield veterans, you know, Vietnam or Korea, World War I veterans, World War II veterans, and I'm sure even before that, you know, VFW is a very old organization, 125 years. So the definition of what it means to have camaraderie and purpose after service has evolved. And so this is a really phenomenal way for veterans, younger generation, who have a different definition. You also brought up family, Greg, and how important it is, especially because there's often this tension with younger veterans. You know, they have to juggle, you know, still a full-time job and family life, but they want to also be involved somehow. And so by giving them more ways to be involved is of tremendous value.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this was our finest hour in Texas. And, you know, all the VFWs across the country, but this was our finest hour. To Greg's point, the communities now definitely see VFW posts in a lot of cases in a completely different light. We were founded 125 years ago for advocacy, and we do community service reports. That's how we're judged. That is a factor. That is a variable in how successful
each post is.
A VFW post does, because all that gets rolled up and reported to Congress as part of our congressional charter. I mean, all of that's important. So this has been a demonstration of veterans care about our communities. We are going to respond quickly to a disaster. We're going to run into the breach to respond, and this has been our finest hour. Out of disaster and crisis reveals character.
It does. And
this guy right here, our state commander, our leadership, made a decision and got this organized and got a focus to it. And thank God, Greg Brandon, who's trained in this. He's a subject matter expert in all of this. So this is something. It's part of his profession, and he knows how to do it. So let's move forward and have a model, you know, nationwide. And there's definitely a desire to do that with Chief Liphart, and I'm sure Carol Whitmore will support that, and
certainly.
And that Grunt Style Foundation deepen that relationship.
I think I love that this is something that we're looking to scale.
Yeah.
Because veterans across the country, you know, it seems like as much as we don't want them to, it seems like disasters are becoming a little bit more common or maybe like frequent, or I'm not sure, but you know, to have 2 back-to-back events like this, like in North Carolina, and then like the VFW's response, it's remarkable how similar both departments, so VFW states, we call them departments, and so both departments, essentially, they answered the call, independent of one another, without having previously shared the models for, like North Carolina didn't share their lessons learned with Texas, I'm sure, beforehand. But your responses were identical. And so that's very telling about the commitment, the care, the immersion in communities where, and you know what else? It's the veterans within these communities. So you mentioned, Greg, that if the community members are, maybe have a different feeling about VFW, like what VFW is after your response, right? Yep. And so the wonderful thing about VFW being involved in a community response is what the community needs. You are part of the community, so it's not like you're a bunch of outsiders coming into an area that you know nothing about. Like, the neighbors, that so-and-so, may have mobility challenges. Were they able to get out on time?
Yeah, exactly.
Has anyone heard from them? Let's do a welfare check on them. Make sure maybe they need supplies. So the value is amazing. And as much as we don't want these things to happen, the fact that we have a ready, willing, committed population of veterans who are ready to respond is remarkable and wonderful. It's a wonderful thing.
And to your point of, we knew where all the veterans were. We knew where the community, the possible situations were in the community. One of our posts did such an outstanding job that FEMA and the Texas Division of Emergency Management and the Red Cross invited them to their morning meetings.
Wonderful.
So our post was in there with the federal government, the local government, and the state government coordinating a response for the day. And then we had other people on the ground. Janae Sergio is one of them from Grunt Style Foundation and Reverent Warriors. She was going around to all these different posts and reporting back, hey, they need this, they need this, they need this. And so that got back. Mitch talks about the board I had in the talk in Dallas. Tim Jensen had the same, almost a board, and we were sharing boards and communicating back and forth, and one of the needs was gas cards.
Gas cards. Very specific items that it's one thing to send supplies. It's amazing, like the outpouring of support, donations, what have you, but it's very different when you're on the ground as a responder and you're communicating directly with those veterans, with those families. And it's like, well, no, today the need is shift. Like yesterday's crisis, has been mitigated, but today it's batteries. Today it's,
and that's exactly how
today
it was.
It's disinfectant wipes. These or in North Carolina, one of them was there was a shortage of insulin for people who are diabetic. So it's like, we're in dire need of insulin. So like, how can we get this insulin essentially to the front line? How do we do this? And where are we going to get it? And then they just set up the logistics and made it happen. So it's remarkable. And thank you both for everything that you've been doing.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do too as well. You've been doing it for years too. You've testified before Congress numerous times, so you've been in the advocacy fight yourself. So thank you.
Service comes in many different forms, and it's a wonderful thing. And I think that's the beauty of the VFW is that. And I think a lot of people, as a VFW member, I joined in 2017, and I joined because I was in college, fresh out of the Navy. And we had our local post, was a post 9/11 veteran commander. And so he was roughly my age, and he was always at school and, in the veterans office with us. And, saying like, what are you doing? Do you have plans? Like, how are you doing? Do you want to come to the post? We have this event going on, come. He was very inclusive. Come on in. So that's why I joined the VFW. But it wasn't until 2021 that, so my life, the only thing I knew about VFW from 2017 to 2021 was, this is my post. This is what we do. We have a children's party for, children who are, are maybe be in foster care. So we would collect, gifts so that those children could have presents on Christmas morning. So we did very localized things. But then in 2021, I saw a job opening for the National Legislative Service, the VFW, and I was like, what is this? VFW does legislation? And so I applied and I got the job, and my eyes were opened to the reach and the importance of the VFW from the national all the way to the community level.
It's a core mission. Grassroots. It's why we were founded.
Exactly.
And I can't thank Chief Liphart enough. The honor of serving as his chairman of the National Legislative Committee this past year. This will be my 5th year on the committee. So
yes.
I thank my state commander over there for getting me reappointed. You know, I enjoy it, and and Greg Brandon now has joined the team, so
yes.
he'll be on the National Legislative Committee representing Texas, and we've got a good team, and it's all about the relationships.
It's all about relationships.
You've got to establish those relationships in those offices, because the PACT Act and those major pieces of legislation, they don't just happen.
They don't. It can't happen without a team. And so, I think that's our time for today. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking with you both, and thank you very much for everything you've been doing.
Thank you.
We really look forward to what's to come.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, gentlemen.
Thank you all so much for your unwavering commitment to